A voice on the radio begins a sentence and stops mid-word. The carrier tone continues. The channel stays open. And then, nothing. Not just silence like static, but the kind of hush that feels like being wrapped and felt, thick, absolute, as if the world has muffled itself. Do you feel that? You should. Listen closely now. The call for help fades not because the speaker stopped, but because the space between words has been stolen. I'm Sam Nang. Find somewhere dark, put your headphones on, and listen closely. Tonight's story is called The Quiet Fold, a valley that eats sound. We'll follow a volunteer searcher into a bowl of silence, pull at the threads of field notes and recordings, and ask experts how a landscape could behave this way. This is not a ghost story dressed as science. It's a human story about curiosity, fallibility, and a place that refuses to speak on our terms.
Her name on the rescue roster was Anna. Careful, methodical, the sort of person who tracks fine details like boot tread and knot type. She volunteered on weekends, worked a weekday job folding maps and schedules. The valley is small on paper, a shallow basin, coordinates that mean little until you stand at the rim and look down. Wildflowers in late season, a mat of moss that glows bright green after rain, a fog that gathers like breath. People hike it for solitude. Locals joke about the quiet, but they also change the subject when you ask what they mean.
The first time I heard Anna's recording, I thought the file was corrupted. There is a timestamp, the hiss of wind, then a clear voice. I found, and then a clean cut. For half a second, I expected a technical dropout. I replayed it. The microphone shows continuous power. The waveform looks healthy. The radio carrier is present. But the phrase is gone. Anna told us later, quietly. At the moment the voice stopped, it felt like walking into a pillow. Her whistle carried until it didn't. The last syllable simply dissolved. And that was only the beginning. I pulled a notebook full of notes from past hikers and rangers, a dog that suddenly sat and refused to move, a compass that swung with indecision, though there was no magnetic anomaly on the maps, 2 bird species that ceased calling when they crossed the bowl. People described an attention shift. Animals look inward, footsteps slow, conversations trail off. Notice the silence, one old ranger wrote. It's like something is listening for the wrong language. The pattern repeated in small, precise ways that made the quiet feel intentional.
So we did what people who love questions do. We asked other people who keep better records than folklore. I spoke with an acoustician named Dr. Hale, who studies how landscapes shape sound. He explained, simply, sound is energy. It travels, reflects, gets absorbed. There are places, canyons that echo, sinkholes that amplify, but there are also surfaces and shapes that eat energy. Dense peat, layered vegetation, certain curving topographies. A landscape can be an instrument, he told me. Some instruments mute what we expect to hear.
Then there was Mara, a bryologist who studies mosses. She walked the valley with me and ran her fingers over the carpeted floor. The moss there is unusual, spongy, layered, with tiny air pockets. She described how dense bryophyte mats can absorb high and mid frequencies, like a natural acoustic foam. It's not that the world goes quiet, she said. It's that the energy gets trapped, dissipated in the plant structure. But Mara also hesitated. Plants don't swallow consonants, she said. They don't erase a radio phrase. Something else is in the mix.
And then there's search and rescue. I spoke with Tom, who leads regional SAR teams. He has walked valleys like this and learned to trust his people more than his instruments. When senses fail, Tom said, we move to protocols that limit degrees of freedom. We tether, we rope, we mark with paint when voice fails. Their logs show repeated attempts into that bowl where radios behaved oddly.
Teams started using tactile markers, ribbons, stacked stones, pulse checks, because sound could not be relied upon. They adapted procedures the way sailors learn to navigate by stars when their compass spins.
Anna's turning point is small and human. She was mapping the perimeter alone when she dropped a pack. Inside it, a small field recorder and a family photo. The photo slid from the strap and fell toward the green. She could have banked out, left the pack, and called for rope. Instead, she chose to step down. Not a reckless dash, but a deliberate decision to go lower, to feel the ground under her boots, and to retrieve what was hers. "This is the moment," she told me later. "I thought I was being brave. I think now I wanted to know."
The descent is the center of the episode. Imagine each step changing what you can trust. The moss gives like a pillow on some strides and resists like a sponge on others. Breath fogs in your hood. Your pack drags a whisper along the plants, and that whisper is eaten. Instruments dull. The radio blinks its normal green, power present, but your voice bends into a place that does not send it back. Anna writes in her notes, "My mouth became a private room." She remembers the feel of a pebble under her left boot, the way the fog turned from gray to silver. Then, very close, a sound she could not name, a substrate sigh, like wet fabric shifting. Heartbeat pacing now, short sentences, because that was when decisions contract to limbs and breath.
There is a moment in Anna's account where equipment and theories stop explaining. Her recorder shows a collapse in ambient amplitude, a drop across most frequencies that cannot be explained by wind or sheltering. The acoustician could model energy loss up to a point. The bryologist could model absorption by living matter, and the SAR leader could explain tactical response. But none could model the precise, almost grammatical disappearance of syllables. We label that part carefully: hypothesis, observation, anomaly. We do not leap to supernatural language. We do not turn a field note into a myth. We hold the space of uncertainty because it is the only honest place to stand.
The climax is not flash or spectacle. It is sensory tightening. Picture Anna in the bowl, every sense amplified because the soundscape has reduced. The crunch of a twig would be a headline in any other place. Here it reads like punctuation. Her breathing becomes the loudest thing she knows. She calls into the radio with clipped syllables. "Bass, bass, and the remainder of the sentence does not arrive. Instead, a thin pressure, an expectation, like someone closing their hand around a conversation. She moves by touch, by the way the light sits on the moss. She reaches for the pack. The recorder blinks. The file, later, shows a tiny, almost indecipherable uptick, an unintelligible syllable, a consonant ghost. Then darkness of waveform again.
What happened after is procedural and human and messy. Teams adapted. They began to include tactile beacons and low-frequency transponders that penetrate differently. They trained with eyes closed in other basins, practicing routes by memory. Anna kept walking into silence after that day, trying to map what could not be counted. The community argued, should the valley be closed? Is it a hazard or a wonder? People built fences and then took them down. Some hikers came away changed, quieter in conversation, more reluctant to fill their pockets with noise. Others left the area alone. There were no neat answers. There rarely are.
Months later, a team found an old recorder hidden in a pack left at the rim. The file was corrupt where Anna's voice fell away, except that, when an audio technician applied careful restoration, something impossible surfaced for one breath, a faint syllable that was not in the raw file before restoration. It is a hairline sound, almost more sensation than phoneme, like a throat clearing from the inside of the earth. It does not answer any question. It raises more. "Are you still with me?" I asked Anna when I played it for her. She put her hand over her mouth,
and said, "It sounds like home and like a mouth that is not ours."
So, what do we do with a valley that hums invisibly, and with people who carry small, private losses? We learn to respect limits. We adapt our tools. We label our certainty and our doubt. In the show notes, I'll link to Dr. Hale's papers on sound sinks, to Mara's bryology work on acoustic absorption by moss carpets, and to SAR guidelines for operations when senses are unreliable. If curiosity pulls you, that old, dangerous human hunger, remember the mitigations. Do not go looking for the anomaly alone. Do not disturb fragile mats of moss. Contact local authorities before planning any trip. Leave no trace, and respect what you cannot explain. A final thing, the valley's hush is not only absence, it's a presence that reshapes how people listen to one another. Anna came back changed in small, honest ways. She learned to speak in ways that did not rely on being heard from afar. She kept a list of tactile signs and taught volunteers to trust touch when sound failed. The community learned that some wildness is not a problem to be solved, but a character to be known and negotiated with.
And one last image before we go. Months after the events, a restored clip plays in a community hall. The room listens. For a moment, a faint, unintelligible syllable appears, so slight some choose to think the equipment made it up. Others lean forward. The valley keeps its counsel. It offers, if you pay attention, something like a private word. We do not understand the grammar. We wonder whether the hush is protective or possessive, whether it answers back on its own terms. The story deepens when you realize nature can be secret and wise in the same breath.
If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who listens in the dark. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Sam Nong, and until next time, check the corners.